Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
My name's Johnny Lawrence, and I teach a bunch of little kids.
Well, hello, Mr. Lawrence. I'm Richard Dragon. How can I help you today?
Well, you see, I need help I need some assistant instructors to come in to help my little kid karate gangs.
Your karate gangs?
Yeah, you know, we're being really, like, badass, kicking all the dweebs all across Reseda and the rest of the valley, breaking arms, stealing stuff, you know, doing really cool badass stuff, listening to REO Speedwagon, stuff like that.
Right.
Driving Trans Ams and shit.
You said you teach this to kids, though. How old are they?
Oh, they're like 9, 10 maybe.
And they're breaking arms.
Yeah, I mean, maybe oldest is like 15, but they're almost aging out.
Okay.
You look to be like kind of like, you know, the coolest dude around.
Thanks.
And master knows a master.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
And what style are you master of?
Cobra Kai, man. You don't know it? We're famous throughout all the valley.
I'm afraid I'm not that familiar. I'm only in the valley for the weekend.
You don't know all of our karate gangs?
So it's karate. Okay.
I mean, it's like, it has some basis in Tang Soo Do, actually, but yeah, it's like karate, whatever. Who gives a fuck?
Okay. So you're a master of karate.
Yeah.
That's it?
Master of karate, and I need an assistant master for my little kid dojo gangs. What do you say, old buddy, old pal?
Okay, first off, it's not buddy old pal. You can call me Richard Dragon. You can call me Mr. Dragon, but no nicknames, okay?
How about I call you Dick? Dick Dragon.
That's a first.
Oh?
All right, well, let me just see if this is going to work out anyway. I'm kind of in between assignments right now.
Assignments?
Why don't we? Yes, for my other job. But anyway.
Other job, huh?
Yes.
I got a few of those. Myself, a handyman, what have you.
Right, it's not quite like that, but okay. Why don't we try something out? Why don't we see... We'll just see what we know about each other. How about that? We just
Sure.
do a little sparring session here.
Sparring session, okay.
Okay.
Come inside.
All right. I'm taking off my shoes. I hope you have other people take their shoes off too here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course we do.
It's not very
Let me just
sure.
get my shoes off, and I'm ready.
All right. I'm bowing and...
What? Oh, shit!
What the fuck?
Mommy.
Okay.
That was worse than even that other guy.
I only threw one kick. I don't know exactly why you had to react that way.
That sure was a lot of watas for one kick. Somebody get the license plate on that truck.
All right. You know what, Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to work out.
Maybe it's not, because My assistant can't be more badass than me. Master, what's going on? What happened? Hawk, can you just stand by for just a fucking second? You're always getting in the way of shit. This guy's way cooler than you. I'm switching dojos again.
I'm sorry, kid, but I just don't take people who look like roosters.
It's a hawk, man. Mohawk, get it? I thought you were cool, dude. Hey, man, calm down, Hawk. He's a real badass dude. I mean, just look at him. He looks like Bruce Lee. Yeah, that's why I'm switching dojos. Based on looks alone, you look like a washed out turd.
Not sure whether to be flattered or insulted by racism on this.
He looks like Bruce Lee. Good enough for me. I'm switching.
Go take Jeet Kune Do, kid. I'm out of here.
What's Jeet Kune Do? Don't worry about that. Shut up, old man. I'm getting mixed messages. One side or the other. Choose, you dumb kid.
There's not much of a choice. I'm not even teaching at a dojo.
Oh, man, now I'm stuck with blonde dipshit over here.
I mean, if they're all like this little idiot with the mohawk.
Idiot? All right, you and me right now. Let's do this shit. I'm taking my shirt off.
You don't want to do this, kid.
All right. I guess we'll just leave you to your own devices, Dick. Once we heal back, we'll get this dojo back in ship shape. And just never tell anybody about this, okay, Dick?
Right. Well, good luck with that. And no, I'm not planning on telling anybody that I beat a 15-year-old. That just seems a little dishonorable.
And shut the fuck up, Hawk.
Yeah, Hawk, shut the fuck up.
Oh, man!
Welcome to Nanda Parbat, aka Superhero Stuff You Should Know, the Nanda Parbat of podcasts. Here we are. It is I, the man who knows too much about Batman, Ben, and with me, as usual, doing some moves is...
Ben, there's only one way to start off this episode, and that is with the phrase, "What in the funky hell?"
And this week we're talking about Batman Soul of the Dragon. We're back to the Batman stuff, of course. And
we're back.
The first Batman movie
No
of
more. It could have been better. That phrase is nobody even commented on that. Thank you for that, by the way, everybody in the audience listening out there. But I'm gonna restrict myself. No more of that phrasing, and I wouldn't say no more, but less Burt Ward dick jokes. But I can't take them out entirely.
There's no Robin in this, so
yeah.
it's a little easier
good
to avoid that in this one. But yeah, for here we're going to talk about the new movie, as well as go into everything that you didn't know about the characters involved and the stories involved for Soul of the Dragon. This is definitely a treat for a lot of us who are into not just Batman, but also just martial arts and
I
kung fu
am
movies in
excited.
Me too.
I am excited.
Let's dive in then into our thoughts on Soul of the Dragon. I will start, but this definitely made me want a Richard Dragon movie, a live-action Richard Dragon movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
like Marvel can have Shang-Chi and do their own, stuff with the Mandarin and make it part of mysticism or sci-fi elements, but DC can do Richard Dragon, a Bruce Lee meets James Bond type, because like that, it's a great mix. The first 5 minutes I just loved because it brought me so much back to growing up with the Sean Connery James Bond movies and the Bruce Lee movies that I had on VHS. Funny enough, I didn't have Enter the Dragon on VHS as I had to get that on DVD, and I actually saw that one the least, even though that's the most famous out of his movies.
It's almost as if they're sitting on a gold mine, Ben.
I know.
They
need to do something with
I
this.
just don't know.
But this definitely is more of a Richard Dragon movie than a Batman movie. Now, we're going to get into spoiler territory. So if you guys haven't seen this yet and you're just trying to check this out and see whether or not you check it out, definitely check it out and then come back here.
Batman Soul of the Dragon.
Yep.
New animated show, and spoilers are about to happen.
So this is one of the first times where we really dive deep into his training with Kung Fu, and specifically that side of it, because we saw a little bit of the League of Shadows, which is kind of just a mix of everything. Sort of Batman Ninja dealt with the Japanese culture. Now we're dealing with Chinese culture, I mean, for the most part, it's still, sensei is more of a Japanese term, but
I'm
going to
talk about that, but I think it's mostly Chinese,
I do love the world and the concept of this. I love the characters that were brought in. To me, it was mostly a treat for that. I felt like it's fun, but it's kind of also, compared to what we're used to animation-wise, it doesn't quite really match up to stuff like Mask of the Phantasm or Under the Red Hood, but it wasn't really meant to either, I don't think. I think it was just a nice, fun throwback to the 1970s with showing a lot of potential for these characters when they come into live action, especially, my favorite of the movie, Richard Dragon. I'm just going to preface this. This is one of the rare times where my favorite character in a Batman movie is not actually Batman or a Batman-related character, but is actually Richard Dragon.
That's what this movie is, though, I think. I mean, it's Batman to sell some fucking, streaming, whatever you call it. I would say Blu-rays, but that shit's dead.
Right. He's really not the star of this show as much. I mean, he still is in a good amount, don't get me wrong. It's not like he has a cameo in this, and they do have a decent showcase of one particular character trait that I'll go into when we go into there.
Right.
But it's really not much of a Batman movie so much as it is a throwback to stuff like Enter the Dragon and James Bond movies with DC characters, and with some lesser known DC characters that are a great introduction to people who might not know about these characters in the first place. So I liked it. Not one of my favorite animated movies, but I liked it for what it was. How about you, Andrew?
It was a lot better than I expected. The trailer I just thought was like, okay, I like the premise. I was gonna see it because it's Batman focusing on martial arts and shit. So you already got me, of course. But other than that, the trailer, I don't know. It didn't super drag me in. Right. But with the movie overall is pretty good. It's definitely a thumbs up. It's not without problems, but the problems aren't even that big of a deal, I guess. I mean, one of the biggest things for me is somebody that's always been in the Japanese culture, and I know a little bit about Chinese just because their history's so connected, is they call the Sifu, or I'm pretty sure it's Sifu. It's Chinese. So
it's Sifu.
Sifu, right?
Chinese Kung Fu, yeah.
Sifu. So should be just say Sifu, man. They call him O-Sensei, which is a Japanese word.
He is a character in the comics called the O-Sensei. They kind of combined. They did the classic thing of combining both, I feel.
It's like you're supposed to be woke on Asian cultures, and the director is Asian, right? Isn't the director of this Asian? His name is Sam Liu or something? I could be getting that wrong.
Yeah, Sam Liu, I believe.
Yeah.
For anybody wondering and who isn't too familiar about this, Andrew lived in Japan and knows a lot more about Japanese culture than I do. So if it seems weird that he's talking so much more about it than I am, it's because he actually knows more about it than I do.
I don't know shit about the Chinese American experience.
Right.
That's Ben's territory, obviously.
Right.
And I don't know much about the Japanese experience either. But I lived in Japan for 3 years, and I've been into the Japanese stuff my whole life, and so not that I'm a super expert or anything. I didn't go to college for it either. So there's that. I'm just kind of not out of my ass, but just kind of giving my thoughts on what
but you
do know.
You do know enough, I'd say, that I can turn to you and say hey, does this line up with what you know of Japanese culture and knowing the language and everything? So O-Sensei, it's used, but not. It depends on the martial art. I know Aikido, they use it. Morihei Ueshiba, they call him O-Sensei. The O is an honorific in Japanese language, which adds even more honor to it. And it can be even used for inanimate objects, like if mizu is water, but you can ask for omizu. Okay, it might be a different kanji. I'm not sure, but it adds more. So it's like saying, instead of sensei being teacher, O-Sensei means great teacher. So there's that. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was, it seems to be mostly a Chinese look, with the Shaolin robes, and I mean, they're all wearing karate gis. So it's just kind of like this mix of shit, which is whatever. Yeah. These characters do come from a comic book that isn't Batman, but is titled Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter.
Okay.
So it is meant to be Kung Fu, even though they gave him the name O-Sensei back in the 70s.
They just didn't know, man. They didn't know. It's cool. I mean, it's such a minor gripe, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all the story points. This is not a review episode, by the way. We're gonna do deep dive in a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Just sorry about that, guys, but just we'll get through it. So that kind of like stuff that's Japanese, it probably should be Chinese, just for consistency's sake. Minor gripe, but it's okay. And Batman, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but he seems to be kind of early career Batman in this. He on the weaker side.
Yeah, it surprised me when it's Bronze Tiger who figures out how to defeat those snake eyes versus Batman.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know about that. Like,
they want to give something to everybody, though. I mean, it's okay.
I get it, but like play off of their strengths. Like Batman's supposed to be the master strategist, even if he's early career. I would imagine, that would still be a thing. Whereas Bronze Tiger was characterized as the angry one, the one who has to like keep his temper and stuff. Like, let him be a Hulk type of force if need be, when you need to like play up each character's strengths in that. Don't suddenly make like, okay, now Bronze Tiger is more smarter than Batman in this.
That's
I'm like,
right.
I don't know about that, but like Bronze Tiger definitely needs his own strengths and to show them, but I don't necessarily think that played the way that it should have, in at least my view. And also Batman does sort of look a little bit more like the Bill Finger take on it based off the ears.
Yeah, that's true. A little pointed outward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this, like the one that I'm showing right now for the
no
viewers on
purple
YouTube.
gloves though. That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Yeah. So yeah, early days, that definitely was the intention.
He wasn't. Yeah, he didn't seem like, because he gets his ass beat when he's not Batman, when he's just Bruce. But it's which is cool to see, and it kind of makes me think like I do kind of like that. I like the idea of Batman sort of like he's obviously a great fighter, one of the best in the world, especially in his peak prime years. But without the suit, without the gadgets, without all the stuff around him, like maybe he can get his ass beat a lot. Like if they can balance out the character like that a little bit. Like I thought that's kind of cool. Like a one-on-one, with another dude. Or woman, whatever. Like, I don't know. It was just, it was cool to see that. He does feel pretty human in this, Yeah. Batman feels pretty human, which is a very big plus, I think. Sometimes you get too far into the Bat God stuff, and it's just like,
the Grant Morrison Bat God.
Some of that's like, oh, whatever. But, Shiva's great. The whole thing, that's really good. I mean, I like the ending too, but I guess we'll get into that. But it was good. It was good.
It's an interesting take because I don't think we've ever seen a kung fu Batman movie. Like the closest we got to just a general martial arts Batman movie was Batman Ninja, but this is, as we've noted before, this is more on the Chinese culture, at least, or a little bit less in terms of them armored up like samurai, like in Batman Ninja.
Yeah.
So. But let's dive into it. So I decided to just kind of make this breakdown by character, starting with the main cast and going a little bit into the villains when we get to the end.
Okay.
In terms of comparisons as well as some of our own opinions. So, of course, let's start with Batman. Batman in this movie is voiced by an actor named David Giantoli, who played the main character in the NBC show Greed, along with his now wife, Bitsy Tulloch. Bitsy Tulloch is familiar to DC fans because Bitsy Tulloch is now playing Lois Lane in the upcoming CW show Superman and Lois.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
It's a DC household he's been talking about. Funny enough, David Giantoli's early work, one of his early roles, was as quote-unquote Sneed Batman guy in the show Veronica Mars.
What?
So, yeah, and I looked it up because I was just like, what does this mean? Because I haven't seen Veronica Mars, and I saw on Google Images, it's literally he's in a red sweater that says Sneed Batman in it. So I don't know what the backstory behind that is, but I don't know if it's really, I don't think it necessarily is tied into the DC Comics character at all. It's just kind of a funny tie-in. One of the biggest surprises for me, though, in this entire movie was that the first time we meet Bruce Wayne, he's getting broken up with Silver St. Cloud.
Yeah, that's right. I thought about us. Man.
I'm like, this is perfect. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, check out our deep dives into the Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers comics that feature and introduce Silver St. Cloud in our episode Is Batman 89 a ripoff of Strange Apparitions? And his sequel, The Dark Knight, ripoff Dark Detective.
Yeah.
Here, Silver is voiced by an actress named Erica Luttrell, And, once I saw the hair, I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it makes sense because she was the main love interest in that era, even though it was only a few issues. Like, she and Talia are pretty much the big 1970s Batman representations of Batman's girlfriend at that time, of his love life.
That's cool.
Bruce kind of looks like he's drawn by Marshall Rogers a little bit to me as well, so that's kind of a nice throwback. But the big difference here is that in here she breaks up with him because he's not willing to tell her about that side of his life, as opposed to in the comics where she actually did figure out that he was Batman, and she broke up with him because of that, because of not really knowing whether or not he will ever come home alive again. So
right.
It's an interesting difference. So maybe even if Bruce had told her about his secret, it wouldn't have made much of a difference anyway. So
should she go to marry Evan Gregory finally?
And then they went on to do a duel
finally.
together.
Evan Gregory.
Yes. I do kind of wish this Batman looked closer to the 1970s Batman with the Neil Adams look of the muscular blue and gray instead. There's a little hints of blue in it, but he looks a little bit more like the Bill Finger Batman. And apparently, according to Bruce Timm, they wanted to do that. They wanted to make him look like the Neil Adams Batman, but they, quote unquote, didn't have time to crack the code. So I guess they tried it out and they didn't like it, and they're just
Neil
like,
Adams came over and was like, I'm going to correct all of you on how to do this, and I'm going to tell you how to draw black people.
Yes.
He fucking says that shit in real life, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great artist, great, legacy in comics, but some of the comments, dude.
Man from the 70s. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also interesting, Batman doesn't seem to have a no-kill rule in all this. I don't know if you noticed that, but he doesn't say anything about being against killing people. He seems okay with Shiva killing people. He even snaps O-Sensei's neck with a cape at the end, if you remember that. But then there's also the ambiguity of, like, is that mainly because he knew that was a supernatural creature? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's because it's supernatural at that point. I do think the kill rule gets bent a little bit at that point.
Right.
Him, and then the kill rule's just for himself, right? But he is kind of standing by and watching other people kill other people.
Yeah, he's usually but he's usually not a fan of seeing that when he's teams up with them.
That's true.
When we covered the Dark Detective sequel that was never made, he teams up with Deadshot, but only on the condition that Deadshot doesn't shoot anybody to death.
Right.
So I'm just like, that's a little hazy in this movie. They haven't really covered that much. It would have helped separate him from the other characters, I think, if they did that. But one thing that I think is interesting is how, as we talked about, he's not necessarily the smartest fighter because of what happens with Bronze Tiger. But one thing that they nailed to me, and what separates him from other characters, is the sheer tenacity. When you got the sequence where he's punching the rock until his hand bleeds, and he keeps punching it even when it bleeds, or when Ben Turner beats the shit out of him, and he's still, and that's how he gains that guy's respect, is not because he beat him in the fight, but because he was willing to go all the way.
That scene reminded me a little bit of Last Samurai, whenever he's getting his ass beat by the kid, I think, right? And he just moving his sword along the fucking ground, like like you're gonna have to fucking, I don't know, you have to kill me, motherfucker. That was that was good. I like that too. That stuff's always moving. It's never not moving. You could watch it like every day of your life and you're like, I'm still moved.
Definitely. Those training sequences I thought were top notch, especially because we've covered extensively the training stuff on this podcast, and so I thought that element especially show like, hey, like he might not be the most experienced fighter in this period of time of his training, but he has one thing that's different from everyone else in this, and it's that he never gives up, even if it means that it's going to kill him. Even at this stage, it's
the death wish, man. Right? He's got. Don't you think there's this inner death wish? It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like
stop criminals or die trying. Pretty much.
Pretty much like I'm going to kill myself in this. If I'm ever going to die, it's going to be during my crusade, or during training. Like, and he's 100% down for that death. I feel like, you know what I mean. He doesn't want to die. He's not out for suicide, but if it happens, I don't give a fuck. That's just kind of what it feels like.
Tactically, I do think you probably love the tactical cape in that moment.
I thought about us again during that.
What do you have that other people don't? A cape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snap.
We need more technical cape shit. That was really great.
Yeah.
And I was so happy too that it didn't end it, because I was again thinking that was too quick. And this is kind of Richard Dragon's movie, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was just glad like Bats gets his in, but really we go back to what the movie's about. You know what I mean?
Right,
So like that kind of like action pacing and the balancing of all those factors was good.
Mm-hmm. I think it's time to update the Batman training timeline that we did a while back as well. Believe it or not, that was like a little over just a year ago that we did that. It does not feel that way. But we have a 2-hour episode where I did the full breakdown of the timeline between basically the 50s through 2020 at that point. Obviously didn't cover Soul of the Dragon. So here, Bruce undergoes training at Nanda Parbat, which was also a surprise to me. I didn't know that O-Sensei was going to be at Nanda Parbat.
This is like a Shangri-La kind of thing, right? Like
it's tied in a lot
city.
to Boston Brand. Yeah, it's tied into Nanda Parbat a lot. And the first time that it was revealed to be part of Batman's training was actually in the DC animated universe in Justice League Unlimited, in the episode Dead Reckoning, where basically Bruce's old master gets in trouble with the Legion of Doom, and Deadman shows up to kind of let Batman know that that's happening, and Deadman and Bruce kind of have that connection of knowing they just call him the Master over in that episode. It wasn't O-Sensei, because O-Sensei's a different character on it, but that was sort of the first indication. And then later on, Grant Morrison in issue Batman number 663 had a hint that Bruce knew a meditation, or would practice a meditation or some sort of prayer whenever he encountered victims and a homicide sort of thing. So that is interesting. Again, I said this in the timeline, but Nanda Parbat is actually not part of Ra's al Ghul's mythology that much. A lot of people think that Ra's al Ghul hangs out at Nanda Parbat. Well, no, it's a completely different thing. As Andrew says, more of a Shangri-La type of place that's tied in with Dead Man and a bunch of other characters.
So Nanda Parbat's more of like an Asian thing, but not China, right? We're talking like maybe Laos or something like that. Like it's just it's a made up city, so we don't really know.
It's made up, and it's in like its own secret. It's like
Nepal
a secret
kind
place.
of thing.
Yeah,
it's a Nepal kind of thing, I think.
Yeah. So it's not really supposed to be Ra's al Ghul's hideout. It became Ra's al Ghul's hideout in the Arrowverse, but that's actually not accurate to the comics. So anyway, in terms of our timeline, I would just say obviously this fleshes out what would have happened in Nanda Parbat, and maybe it was both the O-Sensei and the Master, or maybe the same character in our amalgamized timeline. But this obviously gives us an idea of a lot more of what he was going through when he was among all these other martial artists and stuff.
Right.
Let's see. We are going to get more training, just a quick tangent, but we're going to get more training glimpses in an upcoming comic called, again, The Dark Knight.
It's called The Dark Knight? That's the name of the comic?
Yes, it's by Tom Taylor and Andy Kubert. It's coming in April, and it's about a more grizzled Batman going to, I guess, London in order to solve a case. But apparently Tom Taylor said that we'll get more flashbacks of Bruce in his training days in the past. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of an interesting concept, but also they could have picked a more creative name at this point.
That's what the hell, man. That's like there's so much they could do. I know there's like 1,000 bat takes, but come on, man.
Exactly. Maybe they wanted to emphasize the night part,
Is it KN or just N? Oh, it's KN.
It's KN, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If it was just N, that would be more, yeah. If it was just N, then that would at least be a difference, but not in this case. So
okay.
Anyway,
all right.
That's pretty much the stuff that I got on Batman in this, because this is more of an ensemble movie.
Yeah.
So I say let's go on to my favorite character, Richard Dragon. As I said,
it was
this
cool.
is more of a Richard Dragon movie than a Batman movie.
Yes.
And he's obviously designed off of Bruce Lee.
Yes. There's
very obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wish there was some other designs or characters or tropes they could draw from, but I mean, Bruce Lee is just so iconic, man. It's just hard. It's hard not to do that, I guess. I mean, there's Fei Long in Street Fighter. There's Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat. There's an analog in Tekken. All the fighting games ever. Like, it just shows up in like nerd culture so so much. But I mean, you know, what can you do? I mean, it's a iconic shit.
Also supposed to be in the 1970s, and who better exemplifies
that's
1970s kung fu than Bruce Lee, really?
Sammo Hung, man. Just kidding.
He's voiced by actor and martial artist Mark Dacascos, who himself was forced into martial arts since the age of 6, being that he's the son of 2 martial artists.
Oh, wow.
So that's cool. He previously has played a superhero in a TV pilot that didn't go anywhere, The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. So he was one of the crows following up Brandon Lee.
They shot a Crow pilot?
They did, yeah. They tried to turn that into a TV show.
They've been trying to make that forever, man. God.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're ever really going to beat the Brandon Lee one.
That's a cursed franchise. I mean, God, even apart from what happened on set that time, but
yeah.
But I mean, I remember back in the day in the 90s, the Crow video game was known as one of the worst video games ever made.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just say just leave it with the comic and the Brandon Lee movie, and that's it. But
yeah.
Also, quick trivia, Mark Dacascos says that Michael Keaton is his favorite Batman. So that's cool.
Wow. Okay. That's cool.
But let's dive into who Richard Dragon is in the comics. So,
Savage Dragon's brother.
He actually did not start off as a comic book character. He first appeared in a novel called Kung Fu Master Richard Dragon, Dragon's Fists. It basically came out in 1974, written by an author named Jim Dennis. Jim Dennis, however, was not the author's real name. That was just a pseudonym for the man we know as Dennis O'Neil. Dennis O'Neil wrote a novel creating Richard Dragon, who then, of course, transferred him over to his own comic book series, Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter. So that is why the movie is dedicated to Dennis O'Neil. If you've noticed at the very end of the credits, it says, in loving memory of Dennis O'Neil. It's because he created Richard Dragon. He created, O-Sensei, Bronze Tiger. He may have also created Lady Shiva. I have to look that one up again. But he created basically this mythology that the movie is basing itself off of, as well as we all know, is huge creative force behind Batman being rebooted in the 1970s.
Lady Shiva was a stone cold bitch in this movie. She was great. As she usually like that. Yeah,
yes,
right?
As she usually should be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was, she's like, I would throw Hitler's baby off a fucking cliff. Like, oh my God.
That was a great moment.
No, that was cool. Like, even if you don't agree with shit like that, it's like, it's just great to see character, you know what I mean?
Right,
you know?
And that's, I love that, and I wanted to see more of that, or I would love to see more of that in a live action movie as well.
Yeah.
Or a sequel to this, we'll see. So, the cover... wow, my voice just broke. I'm hitting puberty.
Sir, your burger's ready, sir. Your burger's ready.
There's really no adjusting for inflation.
Welcome to Shifties.
It's a callback to a sketch for anybody who might be wondering where that's from. But anyway, the novel Kung Fu Master Richard Dragon, Dragon's Fists, on the cover showed a Bruce Lee-looking character. He kind of looked like Bruce Lee in Game of Death because he was in yellow and stuff. Not quite the yellow jumpsuit, but it seemed like he was wearing yellow clothes. And that's the first image of Richard Dragon, which is strange because when he premiered in Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter in 1975 in the comics, he was a white dude with red hair.
What?
So...
Richard Dragon. Denny O'Neil was probably like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yes.
And then somebody, Carmine Infantino, was like, he's gotta be white so we can sell these funny papers.
Poor Carmine Infantino. We're mainly just doing this because of his name. It's not because of evidence.
I know. Dude, how are you not in the mob with that name? You must at least have very close connections. Let's put it that way.
So
Carmine Infantino.
It does seem like Richard Dragon was intended to be an Asian man, was intended to be based off of Bruce Lee, but for whatever reason ended up being changed. So for almost pretty much all of his comic book career, he has been a white man with red hair. And we kind of have an Iron Fist type of situation where it's like the white dude as the greatest martial artist of the entire universe. I'm like,
they were
okay.
Sign of the times. I'm glad we moved forward.
Yeah,
from
so
that.
one of the big, I guess, one of the best things about this movie is Richard Dragon got taken back. He got to become basically who he was supposed to be, or he seemed like he was supposed to be in the beginning, which was supposed to be a Bruce Lee as a superhero type of thing. what they did here. So it was nice to see that they've taken that back, and we'll see if that transfers over to future versions if we ever see this character again.
Right.
In the comic book version, we didn't really see this in the movie because they don't cover how Richard Dragon came into contact with O-Sensei. They just said that he's been there for a long time. In the comic book version, however, he was a thief who tried to steal from the O-Sensei. Only for O-Sensei's student, Ben Turner. So in the comics, Ben Turner was there before Richard Dragon. Ben Turner,
who actually was the Asian.
No, Ben Turner has always been black.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's a white dude is Richard Dragon, a black dude is Ben Turner, and then a Chinese dude as the O-Sensei, or a Japanese dude as O-Sensei. Actually, I'll go into
O-Sensei played by John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Remember he played
David
some Mongolian guy or something back in the day?
He was Genghis Khan.
He was Genghis Khan, yeah.
He was Genghis Khan, yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad we live in this time.
Me too.
I'm glad we live in this time right now. It's only getting better.
Ben Turner caught Richard Dragon, and they fought, but the O-Sensei saw potential in Richard Dragon and decided to train him alongside Ben Turner. So they became friends. They started out as enemies, they became friends, and together, Richard Dragon and Ben Turner ended up joining an organization called the Global Organization of Organized Defense, aka GOOD. The acronym. Dragon.
Oh man, I don't know if that's better or worse than what was that? The Cult of what was
the Cult of Good.
Cult of Good. The
Catwoman.
The Catwoman one. Was the Cult of Good in that?
It was the Cult of Good. Yeah.
Oh,
with
man.
Captain God.
Captain God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dragon in the movie never really reveals who he's working for because Bruce is like, aren't you some sort of super spy?
Does he have powers? He's just really awesome at kung fu.
He's supposed to be basically the best martial artist in the DC universe.
Okay. Outside
of Shiva.
They could add a bit of, even on top of that, I'd love for fire powers or some shit, Liu Kang style.
Maybe, but
maybe that's too much. I don't know. But
maybe he doesn't really
that.
need that.
He doesn't need it, I guess. And there's a lot of magic surrounding kung fu mythology anyway. So.
I know. So we'll see. The comic book Richard Dragon is said to have trained Bruce Wayne in a flashback scene of Richard Dragon issue number 7. I covered this in the training timeline. So it is somewhat accurate for Richard Dragon to be involved with Bruce's training, though in that version he was a trainer as opposed to a fellow student. He also would help train Barbara Gordon when she was in a wheelchair after he spent some time in the wheelchair during the comic book arc he was basically in the Question comics for a while in a wheelchair because he was temporarily injured, and so he helped train Barbara Gordon as Oracle so that she would be able to defend herself from that chair. So that's pretty cool.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Did he put Nudie Mags on a fishing line and then try to get her to stand up out of the chair?
How did you know? That's exact. Cobra Kai is actually an adaptation of those comics. Yeah.
Daniel's about to show up to train under Richard Dragon to defeat Evil Chosen.
Richard Dragon lit Barbara Gordon's foot on fire just to try to get her to walk.
That's 100% scientifically accurate too.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that science at all.
Let's see. Richard Dragon himself has not been adapted at all, at least this version of Richard Dragon. However, the New 52 version has. So the New 52, for whatever reason, they rebooted Richard Dragon to be a completely different character.
Asian this time.
No.
God
Hispanic.
damn it. And New 50, Hispanic, so we're getting there. But still.
His name is Ricardo Diaz Jr., and he killed the real Richard Dragon.
Who was Asian.
Trained. I don't think that they revealed what that Richard Dragon looked like.
He killed the white guy.
He killed the white version
We're
of Richard
woke
Dragon
now.
And took over as Ricardo Diaz, and aka Richard Dragon in his version. So
That's
was basically
Miguel's father in Cobra Kai.
That's why he doesn't show up. Yeah,
it's coming together.
So this is a Latino martial artist who becomes a Green Arrow villain. But the reason why this is relevant is because we actually saw him in Arrow for 2 seasons. Ricardo Diaz was the main villain of seasons 6 and 7, well, half of 7, played by Kirk Acevedo. But again, he doesn't really have much resemblance to the original Richard Dragon that we're talking about. He's obviously not Asian, didn't really have a lot of martial arts training. He was mostly just a mob boss, and that's it. So this is what I consider to be the first adaptation of the real Richard Dragon.
So New 52 made him Latino. What is he now in Rebirth? Do you know?
I don't know if he's shown up in Rebirth, but if he does show up in Rebirth, he better be like Bruce Lee in this version.
Dude, I really feel like they're just sitting on... like you just said, kung fu spy shit. Although I would put it in modern times. It's just a personal preference of mine. I generally prefer my superheroes in modern day, but I understand this is the height of Bruce Lee flicks. It being in, in the mid 70s. I get it.
You don't have to make this a 1970s Richard Dragon. This could still be, the Bourne Identity, but with Richard Dragon.
You fucking kidding
me? Throw in Henry Golding.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude's already Snake Eyes.
Anybody, any of these guys.
Yeah.
Let's see. He's fucking Snake Eyes in that movie coming out, right?
Henry Golding,
God damn it. Dude, I'm looking forward to that, man.
Yeah.
That should be cool.
That's going to be cool. I thought I would go quickly before we get to the break into a few of the Bruce Lee connections, because there's some obvious connections here. He's dressed very much like Bruce Lee, especially in the finale. He's pretty much straight up dressed like Bruce Lee in the beginning of Enter the Dragon, when he's in these bluish, blackish robes with the sort of white parts sticking out. And of course, he goes shirtless at the end, because what good Bruce Lee movie wouldn't have him do that? You need that. Also in the beginning, I noticed that the bouncer he almost gets into a fight with seems like he's designed off of Robert Hall, who played the henchman O'Hara in Enter the Dragon, with the whole, like, the reddish curly hair and the beard. He seems very much deliberately based off of that actor. From that, he just doesn't have the scar from Enter the Dragon. But the big forgotten fact is that Bruce Lee has guest starred with Batman. He was in the 1966 show of Batman when they crossed over with Green Hornet, because we keep forgetting. Connection. Yeah, he was Kato to the Green Hornet, and they did a crossover with the Green Hornet and Batman at the time, with Bruce explaining that he and Brett Reed, the Green Hornet's alter ego, went to school together, and they were rivals ever since. So that was kind of the big superhero crossover of the 1960s. Just imagine what they would think these days with our cinematic universes.
Yeah, I know, right?
Bruce Lee guest starred in 3 episodes: The Spell of Tut, A Piece of the Action, and Batman's Satisfaction. So he is part of the Batman universe as Kato. So it's kind of cool.
I forgot all about that, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Don't they ask, like, why are they wearing those funny costumes or something?
They're both funny costumes.
When they're going up the, the famous shot of them combing up the thing, and they put their the Kato and Green Hornet stick their head out of the window. Anyway, it's iconic scene. I think. Yeah,
we might have to relook into that. But I saw it a long time ago, the crossover with those two, and it's a forgotten part of history, because you don't immediately associate. You always think like Batman, Superman, Batman and the Justice League, but you forget, like, oh yeah, Batman and the Green Hornet, like that was a thing.
That was probably the first live action crossover, or no?
You're probably right. Honestly, that was probably the first superhero live action crossover that I can think of, because they didn't cross over the serials.
Yeah, right.
At the time,
this is the 1960s. Not even live action, really. I mean, they're real people, but it's just voices, like.
Right. Yeah. That's true. It was probably a crossover before, because we didn't really have the animated shows crossing over either.
And George Reeves didn't have any crossovers of any kind. Probably not, right?
Really. The closest that we got was that one episode had Clark Kent's friend, played by Robert Lowery, who played Batman in the serial. So you technically got to see Batman and Bruce Wayne. Batman and Superman in the same episode, but he wasn't playing Batman. He was just playing a friend of Clark Kent. But Robert Lowery was the last person to play Batman at that time of the George Reeves show. So it's you can kind of see it that way. So we can go into that in a future deep dive. We're definitely going into. I've been watching a few of the George Reeves Superman things, and I know Andrew has too. So we'll eventually cover that later. But we got Soul of the Dragon to talk about. But anyway, after the break, we're going to go into the rest of the Kung Fu team with the Bronze Tiger himself, Ben Turner, Lady Shiva, and then we're going to go into the villains. So see you after the break.
Need some adventure in your life? What Mad Universe is a podcast about the history of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, where we delve the depths of pop culture history.
Everything's the same politically, but we have ray guns.
The actual motive isn't to explore something that's, quote, scientifically possible, or...
But neither is Star Wars, and I know there's arguments about that, but I would definitely consider Star Wars science fiction.
You haven't read Dune!
No, I haven't.
You can never be the Kwisatz Haderach. What Mad Universe on the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hawkman, thank you for coming to the Watchtower.
Thank you, Batman. Me as an Egyptian, I find it great to just be here as the first actual real Egyptian here in the Watchtower. Do you have a Barbie here on which we could put prawns? We say prawns, not shrimp.
Wait a minute. You said you're the first Egyptian here?
Yes, we Egyptians say prawns, and that's what we put on Barbies.
Actually, Hawkman, that's not the thing that's tripping me up.
Oh?
You see, Egypt has a long history, and it usually doesn't consist of white, blonde people who talk like Crocodile Dundee.
I don't know who that is, but I do hate escalators. Anyway, I am 100% Egyptian, mate. Look at me, I'm a hawk. Caw-caw! There's a lot of hawks in Egypt, and we all talk like this. You don't know anything.
It's just that I usually don't care about this, but I don't want the Justice League to get in trouble for, you know.
In trouble for what, mate?
I don't know what the word for it is. It's not really cultural appropriation. What's the opposite of diversity?
I want to talk about prawns again. We used to put prawns on the Barbie in our pyramids all the time, and we flushed our toilets opposite. Egypt is in the southern hemisphere, correct? Yes, it is, for sure.
If you were from Egypt, you would know that.
I 100% know that.
I'm also pretty sure there are no Barbies in Egypt.
Barbies is a doll, mate. You want a Barbie.
Whatever the case is, I know Egyptians. I fight them most of the time because they work for Ra's al Ghul. I'm trying to fix that, but I just feel like you're a better fit for, I don't know, another universe. I'm not saying you can't be a flying superhero.
What, Boomerang Man? Who's that Boomerang bloke?
Maybe him, maybe another, like your features.
Captain Boomerang, what a piece of shit. Who gives a fuck about him?
Alright, well, since you care about Boomerang so much, I hope you didn't mind what I based my Batarang off of.
Well, artistically, you change it 20%, it's yours, mate. So good on ya.
Thanks, Hawkman.
So, I'll get out the Barbie on which I shall put prawns on my pyramid.
Hawkman, I know you reincarnate, it's just that a few things haven't been adding up.
I've reincarnated as in this form. Of course I knew I reincarnated.
Yes, but you reincarnate every few decades. You died like last week as an Egyptian man. I don't think reincarnation works that way. Also, the last Hawkman didn't say anything about shrimps on the Barbie, so,
it's prawns, but okay.
Prawns on the Barbie. Either way, you're not Hawkman.
Oh, but can I just be for today? I just love going caca.
For a fake Hawkman,
Crikey.
he cooks some really great prawns.
There you go. This is good tucker. All right, everybody, if you like that sketch right there, we have that plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
Oh! You're listening to Superhero Stuff You Should Know, brought to you by Superhouse Podcast Network.
And welcome back to Nanda Parbat, where we will continue our training into the mind of the bat and his training.
The mind of the bat, the soul of the dragon.
The dragon.
The spirit of the mongoose.
And the spirit of the tiger, because we're about to talk about the bronze tiger himself, Ben Turner.
Oh, shit. It's called a segue.
Yep. So, Ben Turner is voiced by Michael J. White, who is the only actor among these who has played this role in live action.
That's right. He's owning
Michael
that
J. White.
shit.
Yeah, he played Ben Turner in season 3 of Arrow, and as a deep dive, they brought him back in season 7 when Oliver Queen was in prison and had Ben Turner help out Oliver Queen in escaping and become pretty much his ally throughout the rest of the season. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Michael J. White is no stranger to the comic book world. His first foray into it, of course, was when he was Spawn.
Straight up
back
Spawn,
in the
everybody.
90s. Yep.
My second DVD ever. My first one was Austin Powers.
Of course.
As you do, because it was 1997 or whatever the fuck it was.
Yes. My first was the, as I said before, the Donner cut of Superman the movie.
Yeah.
But the other one
Better
was Tim
choices
Burton.
than mine.
Yeah, well, the other one was Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, so maybe not.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
I mainly wanted it because there was a score-only thing on there, so I could listen to Danny Elfman's score without any of the movie in it. So that's kind of one of the things I liked about that.
I saw that movie in the theater, and I don't remember a single thing about it. I don't remember a single frame of that movie, but I'm pretty sure I saw it.
I definitely do. But anyway, for better or worse.
You wish you hadn't. Yeah.
There's a reason why it was forgotten compared to the Charlton Heston series in the beginning and the Matt Reeves take later on. People kind of forget the Planet of the Apes movie in between or try to deny that it happened. But let's see.
Right.
Michael J. White, of course, we talked about him earlier in our Dark Knight deep dives because he was Gamble in the Dark Knight.
Enough with the clown.
Enough with the clown. Yes. So for what he was, he only had like 2 scenes in it, but apparently there was going to be more. When they interviewed him for Soul of the Dragon, he even gave a little bit more where he said, quote, I think maybe the bookend of where Gamble was supposed to go went to the cutting room floor.
Okay.
So maybe there was another scene with him with like scars on his cheeks. I don't know. But it seemed hinted that Michael J. White did another scene that we didn't get to see in The Dark Knight. Also, he has an uncredited role as an extra in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. So I thought that was relevant since you and Wolfie did that deep dive.
I don't remember him telling me this. What was he? He was what did he do in that?
He was an extra, apparently. In the background of it, I'm sure... Actually, let me just type it in just to see if I can find a picture of it, because
he seems to be into martial arts, so maybe he was into stunts at that time. I don't know. Well, he seems maybe young.
Oh, wait, no, that's not him. Oh, yeah. He's in the background with a black leather jacket and a red shirt. When he's you guys can look up Michael J. White Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and you'll find pictures of him and his cameo there. So that's cool. But he also, outside of live action, has done a lot of voice work. So he was the voice of Doomsday in the DC animated universe.
Oh, shit.
In the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited episodes. So that's cool. He was also the voice of the Tattooed Man in Batman the Brave and the Bold. And the voice of the Jon Stewart Green Lantern in the video game Justice League Heroes. So this guy...
He's in the mix with DC.
Yeah, he's mostly in the mix of... Yeah, pretty much with DC... plus Spawn and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but mostly DC.
People forget about Spawn, and like it's not the best movie ever, but there's still like a lot all right with it. You ever seen it?
Yeah, a long time ago. I'm not too familiar with the comic book character, so I was just like, it's all right, but I don't know anything about like where he comes from or why people might not have liked this.
It had good effects, and like the suit was good, and
the suit looked great.
They didn't. Yeah, the suit was great, right? And like it didn't. They didn't cast a white dude, which is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
which they easily could have, considering that he's done up the whole time.
I know. I mean, it was just. I mean, it's rare even now in 2021, but it was kind of on the pretty rare side. When we had Blade in '98, but it was still on the rare side for sure. I think everybody can agree with that. So it was cool, and I don't know. Yeah, Spawn was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Apparently,
I thought I was wanting to say more, but that's it.
Apparently, Michael J. White asked Todd McFarlane, like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on like another Spawn movie?" And Todd McFarlane's like, "Well, I'm thinking it's going to be something like a horror movie where you barely see him, and he only pops up."
He keeps talking about it. He's like Jaws. You see him for like 2 seconds in an hour and a half long movie.
Yeah,
it's like, dude.
And Michael J. White's like, all right, well, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Are you fucking kidding me? How about you get that exact same suit with a new script where it's a lot of shitload of Spawn?
That's all you really need. You just need Michael. You don't even need to recast. Honestly, he's still in fantastic shape.
He is. That's true. He's in killer shape. Like
just do a reboot movie. Don't worry about if anybody's seen the first one or not. Just make it stand alone. And if anybody who's a fan of the first movie wants to see it as a sequel, cool. If you don't, then that's cool too. But
I mean, when Mortal Kombat comes out, they're going to show it once again that R-rated nerd shit is perfectly fine. I mean, Deadpool's already proved it twice, but if you need more...
The Wolverine movies,
the Wolverine, Logan, fucking A. Just make it rated R, guys, and it'll be fine. It's made for that.
Pretty much.
So
let's see. As I said, Ben Turner was O-Sensei's student before Richard Dragon arrived. However, he had a little bit more... There's a little bit more backstory. Apparently, he killed his first man when he was 10 years old. A burglar broke into the house, and he, as a 10-year-old, defended his family and killed the man. So they were like, this is a problem, and so they enrolled him into martial arts so he could get his, I guess, that anger out, and deal with that.
So the anger's always been part of his whole deal?
I'd say that seems to be pretty true. Now, for his origin story, the Bronze Tiger, it's very different from what we saw in the movie. In the movie, it's mainly like that's the name that he got through reputation when he was hunting after Kobra. However, in the comics, he was part of Good for a while, as I talked about, but he was kind of an international spy, and at one point he ends up going undercover in the League of Assassins.
Okay.
And there he got brainwashed into becoming the Bronze Tiger, and that's where they give him the claws, and they actually give him, and this is not seen in the movie or in Arrow, but they actually give him a full-on tiger costume in the comics. And his his debut in that costume is in the same issue where he meets Batman. So,
okay.
Detective Comics 485, also written by Denny O'Neil, with art by Don Newton, in a story called The Vengeance Vow, where the League of Assassins attack Batman and the original Batwoman herself, Kathy Kane.
Okay, I want to ask you about Denny O'Neil real quick.
Sure.
So you've read a few of his comics, I assume.
A lot of his comics. Yeah,
a lot of his
comics
comics
are the classic 1970s stuff. I haven't really read the Richard Dragon, Bronze Tiger stuff outside of the Batman-related ones, because those are hard to find.
So sell like a plebeian, such as myself, on Denny O'Neil's Batman. What makes him good? What does he write like a smart? He's a smart Batman. It's not like Frank Miller, where he's always a badass. He's like a smarter thinking man's Batman, or it's it's like a 70s Scorsese thriller kind of Batman. Like what does Denny O'Neil bring to the
Denny O'Neil basically rebooted Batman the way that people see Nolan rebooting Batman for the movies. So in the 1960s, of course, the big image of Batman was Adam West, and there was a lot of ridiculousness. You still had vestiges of the camp in there, and then when the 70s came around, they're like, let's bring this back to the roots of the character. So Denny O'Neil comes in, and he teams up with Neil Adams, of course, and Neil Adams creates that classic blue and gray look where he looks a little bit more of an athlete. And the cape, of course, as I've said in past podcasts, inspired by how Christopher Lee in the Dracula movies moved his cape or whatever.
Right. The Hammer films or something. Hammer horror.
Dick Grayson goes to college at the end of the 1960s, and so Bruce is on his own in a penthouse, and Bruce in the Denny O'Neil comics is basically back to being the brooding Avenger type. He's not quite as hardcore as the Frank Miller one, so occasionally, the best way I can describe it is actually he's kind of like the Val Kilmer Batman, where he's like somewhat serious but not above having a sarcastic wry comment every now and then.
That's an interesting take. Okay.
Some people might object to that, but to me, I'm just like, it's pretty much the same type.
Kind of like a detached aloofness to him as well.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So then he, as I talked about in the Strange Apparitions deep dive, we talked about how the Joker for a while wasn't killing anybody. He wasn't killing. He was a prankster. He killed people in the beginning, but he was a prankster for a while. He was Cesar
pulling down
Romero.
their pants and showing everybody their boxers or some shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we got to the 70s, Denny O'Neil not only brought back, hey, he's killing people again, like he did Batman #1, but he also established that Joker was more of a lunatic. That Joker didn't have a pattern that made sense. He wasn't just out for revenge or money or things like that.
So we get a little bit of the true crime serial killer DNA thrown back into the Joker.
A little bit of it, yeah. So we get that, and then also you've got the element of he's the guy who creates Ra's al Ghul and Talia.
Oh yeah.
So we now have the international. We have a new villain. Which is really tough to do, like very few Batman villains these days have stuck. Basically, you got Hush and Court of Owls as like probably the biggest ones who have stuck around in the past couple decades. But, Ra's al Ghul is a major character in the Batman mythos. You got Talia in there. We have a whole bunch of other elements. I'm sure there's other things that I'm overlooking, but just an overview. That's why Denny O'Neil is such a big factor into the Batman series, and of course he later on became an editor for DC Comics and for the Batman line, where he approved a lot of the other storylines that we've talked about. So Death and Family, Nightfall, No Man's Land, all those things. He was a contributing force in that, as well as big force in Azrael and the whole Nightfall thing. So
okay.
it's he's a huge part of the Batman mythos.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Does left-wing politics ever show up that much in the stories?
Not so much the Batman ones, mostly in the Green Lantern. So what Andrew's referring
Green
to
Arrow,
is that
right?
he did the Hard Traveling Heroes story arc, which was Green Arrow and Green Lantern, not necessarily going on big superhero adventures, but encountering real world situations, things like Roy Harper being a drug addict, things like gentrification, like all these sorts of things, and fighting that as opposed to like big aliens coming down to invade the Earth. Those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's like a superhero road trip, right? That run.
Pretty much. I'm surprised that they never really did a version of that in Arrow, because that would have been that seemed primed for an adaptation. But anyway,
who are we to even suggest stuff to HBO Max? You know?
Yeah. Denny O'Neil, of course, introduces the Bronze Tiger into the Batman stories, where he's involved in the murder of Kathy Kane, the original Batwoman. This was later retconned by Grant Morrison as a fake out, but in the 70s, it was for real. Batwoman gets killed by the League of Assassins, and Bronze Tiger kicks Batman's ass. So Batman's pride not only is hurt, but also one of his former allies is murdered in front of him. So Batman basically hunts down, that's why it's called the Vengeance Vow, hunts down the people responsible, but also figures out that Ben Turner, aka Bronze Tiger, was brainwashed. And so he helps out. Bronze Tiger is eventually brought back into who he was before, but because of his sins committed as the Bronze Tiger for the League of Assassins, he has to atone for them, and that's when he enrolls in the Suicide Squad. So he's a major character in the Suicide Squad stuff. That's why he became a Suicide Squad member in the Arrow TV show, and also why some people, I think, speculated that Idris Elba was playing Bronze Tiger, even though he's not now, as we discovered. But they presumed that maybe he was playing Bronze Tiger in the James Gunn upcoming Suicide Squad movie.
He's not, Bronze Tiger's not in that at all, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right.
So maybe another one. But it's hard to think of anybody else who would be more perfect for it than Michael J. White.
Is
honestly.
Bronze Tiger with the claws, is that older than Wolverine? Do you know? Because Wolverine's not all that old of a character, right? It's like 70s or something.
It would have been around the same time.
Like there's a run. I haven't read the whole thing, but there's a run where the original X-Men team meet the newer X-Men team, and they're like, who the fuck is that guy? And they're talking about Wolverine. They don't know who the fuck he is because he comes in later. He's a later addition. So anyway, I don't know why I went on that, but I mean, he has like shorter claws than Wolverine, and I don't know.
I would say Wolverine. Wolverine came out in 1974. For Bronze Tiger, we're looking closer to the later 70s.
Later 70s. Okay, they're around the same time.
Would be later. So because like 1975 is when Ben Turner first showed up, but that wasn't when the Vengeance Vow was written. That wasn't when he first showed up in the costume. So I'm looking it up right now. 1979 was the Vengeance Vow. So yeah, it was Wolverine came out first.
Okay, Marvel got him this time.
Yeah, but also the claws were the main part. They weren't
I know,
really
it's
the
not
main
as
element.
main.
Yeah,
I know.
It was the whole costume. It was the whole getup.
Nobody has powers in this whole thing except for the villain in Soul of the Dragon, right?
Right, yeah.
Lady Shiva, no powers.
No powers. They're just all fantastic
Badasses.
martial artists, yeah.
Okay.
So just like how Richard Dragon looks like Bruce Lee, Ben Turner's design seems to be based off of Jim Kelly, who was the African-American martial artist in Enter the Dragon.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's the one who orders. They're just like, you can pick one woman for the night, and he's like, I pick you, and you. Sorry, I didn't pick more, but I'm a little tired. So
that's in the Bruce Lee movie.
That is in Enter the Dragon. Yeah.
Enter the Dragon. God, I saw that like in high school. I never rewatched it.
It's on Netflix. I actually rewatched it before Soul of the Dragon, which was partially a mistake because it's such a damn classic that Soul of the Dragon just doesn't live up to it. But it is.
You fucked up on that one.
Yeah, I should have watched it afterwards. But still, like it is a classic. It is fantastic. It's great to, especially as a Chinese American, for me to now knowing the significance of Bruce Lee and everything, as well as knowing martial arts stuff. I see it a lot differently than I did when I was like 12 and didn't know as much about stuff.
It's just the importance of Asians on film, basically.
Yeah, because it's basically a James Bond movie, but with Bruce Lee instead of James Bond.
Right.
And he's the star of the show, not the white dude played by John Saxon. He's the actual hero. He's the one who kicks everyone's asses. The white dude just helps him.
There's like conversations with Chuck Norris or something.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Norris is like, well, I should win this fight. And then Bruce Lee was like, no, I'm going to be winning this fight in my movie. There's like, it's awesome, man. I mean, he kicked ass on and off screen,
Yeah. I always felt that Chuck Norris memes are basically rendered obsolete once you look at that movie where he basically gets killed by Bruce Lee. I'm like, clearly Bruce Lee should be the one that these are about, not Chuck Norris. But
yeah, I mean, it's
whatever.
Bruce Lee's movie. I don't know. Chuck Norris was probably, being a white guy at that time, he honestly just wasn't used to that shit. He didn't know how to process it. Probably. I don't know. I'm just imagining.
Bruce Lee just flat out kills him in the Coliseum in that movie. So I'm like, all right. He's clearly the winner.
Yeah.
So he's partially based off of Jim Kelly. Michael J. White said that he looked at a movie called 3 the Hard Way, which also is basically the 70s was also a period for the genre called blaxploitation. I did not make that up.
Blaxploitation is a film genre name.
It's a film genre. That's where Shaft comes in. That's where it was basically black lead characters, and you let them do their thing in like an action movie or a crime thriller like Shaft or those types of things. So
the Quentin Tarantino movie is Jackie Brown is Quentin Tarantino making his own blaxploitation movie.
Because she was in Foxy Brown.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole era of cinema. I don't know a shitload about it, but yeah, it's it's a thing.
Let's see. He also looked at others, so Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, but he acknowledged that Jim Kelly was like the main influence on this version of Ben Turner, and Jim Kelly was in a movie called Black Samurai, which is the nickname that Richard Dragon thinks that Ben Turner was called. So that's actually a reference to a real movie Jim Kelly was in the movie.
That's cool.
Let's see. Ben Turner was shown to be part of Bruce's training in Batman the Brave and the Bold. He was shown as a fellow student in the episode Return of the Fearsome Fangs, voiced by Gary Sturgis. He and Bruce weren't under training from the O-Sensei. They were under Master Wong Fei, who I believe is a reference to the real-life Chinese martial artist Wong Fei Hung, who is played by Jet Li in the Once Upon a Time in China movies.
That's cool.
Legendary martial artist. But anyway,
you seen Jet Li lately? You seen those pictures?
I have, but he seemed to look okay in the Mulan movie, so...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess he's gotten over it. But yeah, there was I don't know, maybe it's just tabloid shit, but he just wasn't looking good for a moment there.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he just hadn't had his coffee yet. Like it
might have been just two terrible pictures. Which is probably what happened. I mean, he's only been working out a shitload his whole fucking life.
No, that probably kills you a little later. But anyway, in Fearsome Fangs, Bruce and Ben selected their own animal masks, their own animal totems, and naturally Bruce selected the bat and Ben selected the tiger. And they were also students with the future terrible trio, who are these guys with animal masks who commit crimes. But anyway, that was the main instance of Bronze Tiger and Batman having a similar martial arts background. And then again, the actor voicing it was Gary Sturgis, who also voiced him in Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is a sort of spin-off little mini game DLC tie-in with Arkham Origins. We've also seen Ben Turner in, here's my little list here, Justice League Gods and Monsters, voiced by Arif S. Kinshin, Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, voiced by Billy Brown, Deathstroke Knights and Dragons, which has Michael Chiklis as Slade Wilson, and he's voiced by Delbert Hunt. Ben Turner is voiced by Delbert Hunt. And then in video games, he was in Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham, voiced by Ika Amadi, and in Lego DC Supervillains, voiced by Kane Jungbluth Murray. So apologies if I butchered anybody's name on there, but this is a character who's been in a lot of shit, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's been around.
It's nice to see him get more and more roles and more recognition. Let's see. And then finally, out of the four, we have Lady Shiva, probably the deadliest of all of them. Stone cold bitch, as Andrew said.
Yeah, she was one of my favorites for sure, just because, I don't know, she just showed more personality. I don't know, just that scene of her like being real stone cold was awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously she was like badass at fighting, and This was rated R, right? Like there was
Yeah,
like
it was.
the moves to the throat and shit.
When when it comes away and it's all bloody and the guy's dying, I was like,
Yeah,
oh
man.
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Shiva was fantastic in this. We've of course talked about Shiva a little bit in our training timeline episode, as well as in our episode with Zach called Batman Legacy, because she was involved in the whole storyline to help fight Ra's al Ghul, who was trying to unleash a deadly virus around the world. So anyway, Lady Shiva in this was voiced by another actress who is pitch perfect for this role, who is Kelly Hu. Kelly Hu has voiced Shiva before in Arkham Origins, as well as the video game Arkham Origins
I forgot
Initiation.
about that.
Yeah. Arkham Origins Initiation specifically has the Arkham Bruce Wayne undergoing training with Master Karigi, and Shiva is sort of like one of the mini bosses in there, and that's supposedly Bruce's first meeting with her. So that's kind of the only time we've seen Shiva as part of Bruce's training before he becomes Batman. But as I said, this was with Master Karigi and not with the O-Sensei.
Okay.
Apparently I don't know if everyone else did it, but she, in an interview, said that she did this over Zoom. Her voice performance is done during the pandemic for this one. So that's cool. She's also famous for other comic book roles. She was Lady Deathstrike in X-Men 2, X-Men United, of course. That was one of the first times that a lot of people saw her.
She wasn't featured all that well in that.
She had like one line. Yeah.
Yeah.
She also played the character China White in Arrow. That is a real Green Arrow villain. I did not make that up.
She teams up with Egg Foo.
No, her full name is supposed to be Chin Ya Wei, but white people shorten it to China White, and also she's involved with like drugs and shit. So like that's
so
the
there's
explanation
something
why it's
good
called.
there.
It's her actual name is not China White, but it's supposed to be.
Okay,
it's from the
it.
Green Arrow Year One comic, but anyway.
I mean, it sounds like a wrestler name, you know. Like, was there one called China or something?
Yeah, there was. Yeah. She was basically in all. Maybe not every single season, but she's been in there from the beginning. She was in Arrow season 1, and she was there in like one of the second to last episodes. So she's been around a lot. And as I said, she was Lady Shiva in the Arkham Origin stuff, but she was also in a previous Batman movie we covered, Under the Red Hood. She was the voice of Black Mask's assistant, Miss Lee. And I think like the only female character in the whole movie. But
yeah, probably. There's a lot of dudes in that now that you mention it.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyway, the comic book Lady Shiva, her full name is not Shiva anything, actually. It's Sandra Wooson. Sandra and her sister, Carolyn, were growing up, and Carolyn was murdered. And she decided to join O-Sensei to learn martial arts and get her revenge, and that's when she named herself Shiva after the Hindu god of destruction.
Okay, I was wondering that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
At one point, Shiva was tricked into thinking that Richard Dragon was the one who killed her sister, and so ended up fighting him for a little bit until they found out that he was framed, of course, and so obviously they became allies and teamed up against the people who tried to frame him. It would later turn out, much later on, that her sister was killed by David Kane, the man who's the father of Cassandra Cain. We covered him in the No Man's Land deep dive as well as the training deep dive. And when she discovered him, the League of Assassins, this is really fucked up, but they agreed to spare her, provided that she would bear David's child. So
when was this written?
And then I would want to say 2000s or so.
But they're villains, though.
They're villains. It's supposed to be fucked up, but that child, of course, would turn into Cassandra Cain. So that's kind of the origin of Cassandra Cain and why, Lady Shiva would even have a child with David Kane in there. I would prefer it if they were just a assassin couple. I don't know why we need this whole rape thing in there, but
you need to have darkness, Ben.
Darkness. No
Who
parents.
wrote that? Zack Snyder.
Hey, Zack Snyder may have had Superman snapping somebody's neck, but he did not have anybody raping anybody.
That's true. We'll get to that later.
We already have gotten to that.
We've gotten to it many times.
Shiva,
you brought up Man of Steel this time.
Shiva also helped Bruce get back into shape in the Nightfall storyline. His back was broken by Bane, and he needed to retake the mantle from the hairdresser
So
John
she's
Paul
the
Valley.
one that just kicks him in the back while he's strung up in the fucking pit?
That was not in the comics, no.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Is that so?
No, not yes. That was believe it or not. Believe
It
it or
hurts your
not.
brain even hearing that.
The realistic Nolan movie tried to solve it that way, whereas in the comic, I mean, in the comic it wasn't that much better.
They were expediting shit left and right in Dark Knight
It
Rises.
was his ex-girlfriend helps healing over healing powers, but anyway, like Shiva basically helps after his back is repaired. Shiva helps him get back into shape.
That dude had a magical foot in Dark Knight Rises. That's how we're just going to explain it that way.
Probably.
He kicks him.
Yes.
Yeah, boom. Back healed.
Oh, man.
Now teleport to Gotham, bitch.
That would have been an explanation, at least. Lady Shiva has been in a ton of adaptations. The first one, this is a little known fact, was in the BBC radio drama adaptation of Nightfall. She was voiced by
Lady Shiva shows up in that, huh?
Lorelei King was the voice of Lady Shiva because they stayed pretty damn true to the original comic book arc in that radio drama for Nightfall. So that was cool. And the big co-star, I mean, she didn't share scenes with him, but the big co-star in the BBC radio drama was Michael Gough. Michael Gough would reprise his role as Alfred from the Tim Burton Schumacher movies to voice Alfred in the BBC radio dramas. So that was awesome. She's only been in live action once, and that was in the 2002-2003 Birds of Prey TV show. We keep talking about that. Christopher Bolaha, the man who was raped in Wonder Woman 1984, was from Birds of Prey, and so is Lady Shiva. I'm sorry, I knew we said we wouldn't bring it up, but we had to because it's relevant. And anyway, Lady Shiva.
Shit. Feels weird to laugh after comments about rape, but it was... It's about the fucking show.
It's call back to our show, yeah. So
anyway, the show,
yeah. Sung Hee Lee played Lady Shiva, but this version of Shiva was a masked thief, and her younger sister was killed in an explosion in sort of a crossfire between Lady Shiva and Batgirl. So
this is the Birds of Prey show. This is the storyline in that show.
Yeah. So in this version, Lady Shiva wanted revenge on Barbara Gordon for the death of her sister, even though it wasn't
that show
really
ever any good?
It was ahead of its time, honestly. In terms
it was
of
a CW show before CW, basically.
Before CW, yeah. And it was like it is a product of its time in the 2000s, but also like I feel like it would have taken off a lot better in this day and age where female superheroes are a bigger thing than it was back in 2003. And we already got it's basically the precursor to Batwoman. Batwoman's a similar show where there's no Batman, but it is about like female empowerment in there. I would say Birds of Prey is probably truer to the comics in terms of having more comic book related characters or bigger comic book related characters in some way. But if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Anyway, Fight us, yes. Lady Shiva was also supposed to show up in one of the episodes of Gotham as taking over Chinatown when everything went towards no man's land in Gotham, but for whatever reason it was never shot or it was cut from the episode. Let's see. Other versions of her, she's been in Beware the Batman, voiced by Finola Hughes, which is weird because Finola Hughes is British. White. Young Justice.
Super white.
Yeah. Young Justice, voiced by Gwendolyn Yao. DC Superhero Girls, voiced by Tanya Gudnati. And Deathstroke Knights and Dragons by Ponta Mosley. In animated films, she had a cameo in Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, voiced by Rachel McFarlane, sister to Seth MacFarlane. That's weird.
Wow. She has an N though, I guess.
Yeah. She was in Batman, Hush, and Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, voiced by Sachi Alessio. And in video games, she was in DC Universe Online, voiced by D.B. Cooper, and Lego DC Supervillains, voiced by Sumali Montano, who also played Katana in Beware the Batman. So
you know what?
She's been in a lot of stuff.
Now that you say all that, I do think we need Shiva, we need Katana, and we need Richard Dragon in Injustice. And the reason I laugh is because Injustice is made by the people that make Mortal Kombat, and like it's just like Liu Kang pretty much. But I mean, he doesn't have the fire powers, I guess. But I don't know, give him a little something since he's in the Injustice timeline, maybe.
Gotcha, yeah.
Need to have like, it's Injustice is basically Elseworlds, so they could do it. And I don't know. I think they do need those characters, man. There's rumors that fucking Neo from Matrix is going to be in that shit. But anyway.
I mean, if you're going to include Neo, you might as well include actual characters from your universe.
I know.
Before you bring in these outsiders.
I know, man.
Jesus Christ.
I know. They always do that in those games. And, whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on.
At least bring in Constantine or something.
That would be sweet, actually. They did have fucking Did they have Dr. Fate? Yeah, I think they did have Dr. Fate in Injustice 2.
See? Yeah. Like, do your actual... like, you have plenty of characters. You don't need to bring in other characters from stuff. As much as I like the Matrix and Neo, like, you don't need to bring him into DC Universe.
I know. Also, fucking Mattson Tomlin seems to love the fuck out of some Matrix. You see him on Twitter?
I think I saw a couple writer that he posted.
The writer of The Batman, Mattson Tomlin, he posts a lot about the Matrix.
Yeah.
He loves it. I mean, we all love it. Who doesn't love it?
Yeah. We loved it so much, we talked about it in the Wonder Woman.
What about a 20-minute detour of that shit?
Yeah, we did.
But I'm sure the listeners are like, I can listen to some Matrix talk real quick. I don't know.
Same crossover.
I'd like to think so.
I think so too. But let us know in the comments if you disagree.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lady Shiva's sword. Now this is interesting. She is given the Soul Breaker sword as crafted by Muramasa. Now, this appears to be from the same family of swords as the Soul Taker sword wielded by Katana. Katana wields the Soul Taker, as described in Suicide Squad by Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag, where he's like, I suggest that you don't piss her off. That line is made fun of all the time in the internet. But anyway, O-Sensei says that it comes from Muramasa, who in the comics is said to have crafted the Soul Taker. And to my surprise, as I looked it out, Muramasa was a real life swordsmith in Japan. They didn't just make up some sort of guy in the DC universe. He was a real swordsmith in Japanese history. So he apparently came up with the Soul Taker and, as of this movie, the Soul Breaker. So that's cool. And that's Shiva. So
Katana was my favorite part of Suicide Squad. I think I could do it for a Katana movie.
They underused her. Honestly, I think the most fleshed out Katana is in Beware the Batman, where she's basically his protege.
More of that.
Yeah, she's basically his protege. There's no Robin. It's Katana.
That's cool. I mean, dude, that's awesome. I think I could definitely do for some more Katana. The soul and the blade or whatever. Her husband or somebody's in the blade or something.
Yeah.
That's honestly sticks with me the most. Although, look, I've been studying Japanese for over 10 years, so I guess I'm just gonna be that guy for a second. Her Japanese was terrible in that movie. Her Japanese was maybe she didn't have the dialect coach or something, but me and my wife Yuka, we were watching it and we just laughed in the theater like this is bad. But not everybody studies Japanese, so I get it.
Yeah, I guess
100% get it.
Yeah. No, one of the best parts in Beware the Batman is when Bruce takes her to a restaurant and he basically is like, "What do you see?" And then she's like, "Well, I just see that guy," and then he goes into like his mind of everything that he observes in like a Sherlock Holmes sequence of that. And I'm just like, this is fantastic. This is the world's greatest detective Batman, but in like a new environment, because you never saw that in Batman the Animated Series.
Not much, huh?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
You didn't really see a lot of training stuff in general with him training Dick or Tim or Barbara. There was just a few sparring scenes and that's it.
And then you got the fucking jiu-jitsu scenes in Phantasm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let's see. Now, the O-Sensei. So the O-Sensei is voiced by James Hong, who was notably the villain in Big Trouble in Little China, which is kind of emulated a little bit. This is the first time that this character is shown to be training Batman. He is a DC Comics character. He did train Richard Dragon and Ben Turner and Lady Shiva, but this is the first time that we've seen that. Not covered in the movie is that O-Sensei is over 150 years old. Okay. He has access to decelerated aging somehow. I don't know how, but
okay. I they could explain it in any number of ways, but the way I read this is it's a kung fu technique.
Yeah, pretty much.
You've learned breathing techniques.
He's mastered his chi. Yeah.
You master your chi, and he's made the energy flow so well that he lives longer than anybody. You know,
probably.
It takes forever to learn it. I don't know. It's just stuff like that. Like we talked in the training episode, like these kind of non-fighting martial arts techniques, kung fu magic kind of stuff that's in this mythology a lot of the time. Which I love. I could do for more. I can't wait for Shang-Chi to come out. Just, more of that. I think it's called, and I could be pronouncing it wrong, but wuxia, martial arts fantasy. It's a whole genre.
Yeah. It is.
Bruce Lee supposedly liked wuxia comics.
Yeah, but that's where Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon comes from.
All that shit.
Mulan, the live-action Mulan, was trying to emulate that. You know, depending on your opinion on that, I didn't think that they needed that element at all. But
yeah.
In the comics, the O-Sensei is a thin, bald, clean-shaven man. The one in the movie with the beard seems like he's designed based off of Master Po from Kung Fu, who basically looks almost the same, except Master Po in Kung Fu, the TV series Kung Fu, played by Ki Luke, except that master is blind in the TV show. But if you look up Ki Luke Master Po Kung Fu or whatever in Google, look him up. He looks exactly like the O-Sensei in Soul of the Dragon, and I think again that's deliberate because we're talking about 1970s.
Like a bearded old dude.
Old Chinese dude, yeah.
Like Pai Mei, you know, like, I don't know. It's just kind of like it's a trope.
Yeah, it's a trope, but I think this is specifically based off of that.
Okay,
version
it's too
of the character,
close to even be a trope, huh?
Yeah, like if you take a look at that, he's pretty much exactly the same.
Okay.
Except without the blindness, yeah.
I gotcha.
Just like Bruce Lee, I'm like, it's kind of hard to argue that Richard Dragon's not based off of Bruce Lee, or Ben Turner's not based off of Jim Kelly in this movie.
He's Bruce Lee, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
So the origin story of the O-Sensei is that he was a Japanese army captain in 1895 who, for whatever reason, faced a Chinese captive in combat. And so he, as the captain, was about to fight this guy when his superior officer, he was a superior officer, and one of his soldiers shot the guy he was supposed to fight. Basically cheated. And the captain, the future O-Sensei, was horrified by this and felt like this was dishonorable, of course. And so to atone, he decided to take the dying man's place as a master of the martial arts of all these things that the guy was part of, and basically take his place in life. So he learned the ancient disciplines. He learned the scriptures and everything. He became a master to the point of leaving his own wife for it.
The Kung Fu scriptures, the Buddhist texts, all
Shaolin,
Shaolin scripture.
Yeah, so he is supposed to be it seems like he's supposed to be a Japanese man who takes on the Chinese martial arts ways based off of this backstory. So it does kind of, once you put that into context, it's like, okay, maybe it does make sense that he's the O-Sensei of Kung Fu, even though Sensei is a Japanese dude.
That's interesting.
But maybe it's because he's O-Sensei because he's Japanese, but it's still Kung Fu because he's still teaching Kung Fu.
The style is Kung Fu.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he promised his wife years ago that back when he did this, that they would be one together with the sea. They would be one once more. And so his main encounter with Batman was in Detective Comics Annual Number 1, which covers this origin, and through the help of Batman, Green Arrow, The Question, and Lady Shiva, the O-Sensei gets to, quote-unquote, return to his wife in the sea when a typhoon washes him away, and they learn that years later his wife was lost at sea. So both the O-Sensei and his wife are reunited in the afterlife in the sea, according to this Denny O'Neil comic. So
that's cool.
That's kind of a nice little way to wrap things up on here. And then there are other characters who surprised me in Nanda Parbat, who I was not expecting at all in this. So you noted that there were pretty much 6 students before Bruce comes in when he introduces him. One of whom is another female character who I was not expecting in this, who is Jade Nguyen. Jade Nguyen is voiced by Jamie Chung. She is killed pretty early on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
She's not usually part of the training part because Jade in the comics would not have been alive at this time. So Jade in the comics is actually a Teen Titans villain.
Okay.
So she would be a peer to Dick Grayson and all those. She's half French, half Vietnamese, first appearing in Teen Titans Annual Number 3, and she's mostly a sort of anti-heroine love interest to Roy Harper, a.k.a. Speedy, a.k.a. Arsenal. And her code name as a supervillain is Cheshire, as in Cheshire Cat. So she's kind of the Catwoman to Roy Harper in a way.
Okay.
She's an expert martial artist, and she has poison fingernails.
Okay, so slight powers, sort of, there.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been adapted as well before. She was voiced by Tara Strong in Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham, and in DC Superhero Girls, voiced by Nika Futterman. But she was actually voiced by an Asian actress in Young Justice and its tie-in video game, Young Justice Legacy, and that Asian actress was Kelly Hu. So,
oh, really?
We have a whole bunch of connections here with Jade Nguyen, because apparently there's only one Asian American actress in Hollywood who could pull this off.
There can only be one.
There can be only one.
Hey, it's good for her, I guess. But
yeah, I guess so, yeah.
She has cornered the Asian woman market.
Let's see. Okay, and then the other one is Rip Jagger, who at first I was just like, who the hell is this? Is this a play on Mick Jagger or something like that? But
it sounds like what they're going for.
Rip Jagger is actually not a play on Mick Jagger at all. Rip Jagger is an actual comic book character named the Judo Master in DC Comics.
Is it the white dude?
He's also a white dude. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's the white dude that's evil in this one?
Yeah, he's the white dude who turns on everybody, yeah.
The blonde hair, white, blue eyes.
Who would have known this blonde-haired white dude would turn on all the people of color in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool though. I mean, there's a lot of evil white dudes out there.
He's voiced by Chris Cox and turns out to be a Cobra agent, but in the comics, he's actually a superhero named Judo Master who does spend some time in Nanda Parbat. This is funny. He actually has a sidekick named Tiger. So maybe they thought there would be a nice connection to Bronze Tiger there in them knowing each other, or maybe it's a coincidence. Probably a coincidence. I have a feeling it was basically like, we want a couple other characters in Nanda Parbat. Who else is really good at martial arts in DC Comics?
Yeah.
Then they looked it up on Wiki and they're like, Judo Master, that guy, and then they'll just take the name. I don't think there's not really a lot to him.
And there's some guy named Sportsmaster or some shit.
There's Sportsmaster, yeah.
Sportsmaster. I guess that's different from Kung Fu.
Yeah, that's different from it. But Judo Master was killed when his back was broken by Bane during Infinite Crisis, so I guess he couldn't handle the back breaking as much as Batman could. And I don't believe he had any...
So much of a master he can't handle a guy with juiced up on venom.
Yeah. And I don't believe he had any encounters with Batman. So... those are the martial arts students. Now let's go a little bit into the villains before we wrap. So Kobra is the villain in this. Kobra was actually created by Jack Kirby in 1976.
Nice.
The character of Jeffrey Burr was voiced by Josh Keaton, no relation to Michael Keaton, but Josh Keaton has played a whole bunch of comic book characters. I can't even count them or list them out here, but just look them up on his IMDb. You've probably heard him before if you've seen any superhero animated thing. Kobra is basically, it seems somewhat true, especially the outfit and everything. It's supposed to be a terrorist cult in it. One part that they don't cover, however, is that Jeffrey actually has a twin brother. He's a set of Siamese twins. His twin brother, Jason Burr, becomes Kobra later on, and it's Jason Burr who also is a love interest for Katana in Beware the Batman. So that's actually my first exposure to Kobra and the Burr family in here. Followers frequently address him as Naha Naha, which later became Naga Naga. So that's because Naga is Sanskrit for snake. So that's why the god in this is called Naga.
I'm glad you looked that up. I actually was going to prepare a little something on that. Where the fuck is my Safari? God damn it. Oh my God.
But yeah, that's why he's called Naga in this one.
Naga. In Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, the Naga are divine, semi-divine deities or a semi-divine race of half-human, half-serpent beings that reside in the netherworld, aka what looks like Patala, could be pronouncing that wrong, and can occasionally take human form. Rituals devoted to these supernatural beings have been taking place throughout South Asia for at least 2,000 years. They are principally depicted I can't fucking talk anymore. Principally depicted in three forms: wholly human with snakes on the heads and the necks, common serpents, or half human, half snake beings. A female Naga is a Nagi, and it goes on from there, but it seems to be originally Indian, they have Sanskrit, right? And then probably that part of Near East Asia, I don't know, I'm assuming Nepal. No, well, we got, it looks like there's traditions in Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, and even Mesoamerica, it says. But anyway, it looks like probably originally Hinduism and Buddhism, and I related to that, and I think there was even a Mortal Kombat villain named Naga. Mortal Kombat just takes everything
Right.
and mixes it. It's two white dudes from Chicago that made Mortal Kombat. So,
Right.
but they just love Asian shit, and
Yeah.
they just mix it all in together. Just real quick, we'll get back to it. But one time I was asked by a Japanese friend of mine, is Sub-Zero Japanese or something? And I was just thought there for a second. It's just Asian shit. It's not. I mean, I think technically now they've gotten to the point where Sub-Zero's Chinese and Scorpion's Japanese. I think, but I think in the original, like, it was just Asian shit for Mortal Kombat, and they just mix it all in together. But anyway, that's the spiel on Naga.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
it's cool that that's already an element and wasn't something that they just made up for the movie, but it's already an element in the comics as well as in just general, mythology. Yeah. Here's what's interesting. Cobra's first clash with Batman was when he established himself as the only person in the DC universe who could decipher the Lazarus Pit outside of Ra's al Ghul. He came up with his own Lazarus Pit where he would kill people and resurrect them, but whoever went through the Lazarus Pit would now be under his mind control.
Okay.
So, major baddie in the DC universe. Doesn't often face off against Batman. We've previously seen him, we've seen Cobra as an organization, a terrorist organization in the DC animated universe, but not in Batman the Animated Series or in Justice League, but actually in Batman Beyond. There were major villains in Batman Beyond. They also showed up in Batman the Brave and the Bold, where the leader was voiced by Robin Atkin Downes, who gets around a lot. He's a great voice actor. He did the voice of Doomsday, or the grunts of Doomsday in Batman v Superman. But he also voices Schlegenfaust, who's the guy who with the glasses who can turn secretly a big snake guy.
Schlegenfaust.
Yeah. I tried to look up unfortunately, I like Schlegenfaust. That has to be a comic book character, and I couldn't find anything on him. Everyone else is a comic book character. Up. Yeah, so they actually made him up, but he's impressive, so I'm like, I'll allow it. And then
it's like
Cobra,
an evil German doctor vibe. With those glasses and whatnot.
Yeah, but also can kick your ass and kill you.
That's true. Fucking snake hands.
Yeah. He was also shows up in Young Justice teaming up with Bane, where the leader is voiced by Arnold Vosloo. So that's cool.
That in season 3? I've seen season 1 and 2.
Season 3, I think, is at one point Batman faces off against Bane, and I think Cobra is helping out Bane at that point.
Okay,
so
all right.
That's probably where that comes from. And then it turns out the other characters helping out Cobra are also comic book characters, not Schlegenfaust, however, but we have a blonde female helping him out named Lady Eve, voiced by Grey Delisle, and she is also a comic book character. She fought Batman and his team of heroes in Batman and the Outsiders, issues 24 to 27. In the comics, she's actually Jeffrey Burr's lover. They don't really cover that in the movie, though. But Batman and the Outsiders helped stop her plan with Cobra to brainwash all the top members of the U.S. government, of the U.S. Army, so that they could blackmail the government. So that's kind of cool. There is a version of Lady Eve who is reimagined as an African-American crime boss in CW's Black Lightning, played by Jill Scott. I don't know how deliberate that was, or if they just happened to come across the name, though. But the other major character who's fighting Richard Dragon at the end is King Snake, a.k.a. Sir Edmund Dorrance, the blind man who fights Richard Dragon in the movie. It's kind of funny, too, in that fight. That was a great fight, though. But he's voiced by Patrick Seitz. He stays pretty true to the comics. In the comics, he was involved with Cobra, where he tried to take over. And he is blind, and he's a great martial artist and has the snake tattoo and everything. In terms of his look, he has longer hair, but what's not covered in the movie, naturally, because they didn't have him, is that he is the father of Bane.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So he's... At one point, Bane thought that maybe his real dad was Thomas Wayne, but then
Bane's half Asian, but born in Mexico?
Well, King Snake is British Caucasian, so he's half white. So technically, Tom Hardy's casting isn't that whitewashed.
I mean, yeah. Let me just put it this way: not for me to decide.
So
not really mine to decide either because I'm not Latino, but
yeah. Yeah, we need Wolfie back for that one.
Yeah, I know. There's been no other adaptation of King Snake. However, in the show Gotham, Bane's real name was revealed to be Eduardo Dorrance, in reference to the fact that his father, King Snake, is Edmund Dorrance. So that's kind of cool. But I thought it's cool that they added King Snake into here. They basically didn't need to add as many comic book characters as they did. You know, they could have had just generic henchmen in there, but they made an effort to include as many as possible, and I thought that was awesome. So,
but they made Schlagenfaust.
They made Schlagenfaust, but you know, I'll allow it. So
snake hands, man, just crazy. And then the fucking he cut him off, and there's a whole other fucking snake there. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a version of Medusa or something, or Hydra.
It is, yeah. That's what it felt like. Yeah. So, anyway, any final thoughts on Soul of the Dragon now that you have some of the comic book source material info?
It could have been made better, maybe with Katana. I still want Katana. I want Katana back.
Katana's not in the movie.
I know. No, I don't know. When she brought up Katana, I was like, man, I could go for more Katana. She's so cool.
I was wondering. I'm like, you're gonna have Cheshire in it, but you're not gonna have Katana.
Yeah,
like Katana's actually has comic book history with Batman. Cheshire doesn't. Like, I don't know why Jade Nguyen is in this. Like, maybe, you know, I wouldn't have wanted her to be replaced by Katana, of course, because they wouldn't want her to get killed off before she actually becomes Katana, but still, it would have been nice.
I mean, I guess other than O-Sensei and them wearing karate gis, it's mostly a Chinese thing, so Katana's just, not that you couldn't mix it, but they just try to make it more, you know, China-centric, which
maybe it'll be in the sequel, if they ever get out of that dimension.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Or maybe Katana gets them out.
That would be sweet also.
So that'd be cool.
The Soul Blade brings her there or whatever.
Yeah. The Soul Breaker brought them in. The Soul Taker takes them out.
Dude.
We just wrote the sequel.
HBO Max, come on. You got to be listening to us over here.
DC Animation, come on. Yeah.
Final thoughts. Again, like my first thoughts in this episode, just a lot better than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. Total thumbs up. Definitely see it. I mean, we already spoiled the whole movie for you, but if for some reason you haven't seen it, go check it out. Warner Brothers, sadly, is not paying us. I wish they were.
To advertise this? No.
To advertise this fucking movie. But, you know, it was a good move, too, just overall. Like, let's make a 70s, kung fu flick with Batman in it. It's really like a kung fu flick with Batman.
Pretty much,
his name is in it to sell shit, but it's, you know, it's Richard Dragon's movie, and it was, I don't know, man, it was cool. It was definitely cool. And the ending, we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but
go ahead, yeah.
Them like having this fucking conversation, and then Batman's just already in that motherfucker.
Right.
Batman is already there. Like I love that too, and and like it sets it up for a sequel really well. And Batman felt vulnerable in this, which is a big plus. He gets his ass kicked a lot. And he's not. Would they even call him the weakest out of those 6 or something?
I think O-Sensei did, because yeah. And I was like, this is interesting because we never really see that. Like, we're used to seeing Bat God in the Justice League, where he's like more powerful than the actual gods,
Superman
in
and
there.
Shit.
But here it's just like, you're the weakest of the fighters. I'm just like, actually, I'm okay with this because of the context here. When you got Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, and Ben Turner as his peers.
Bro.
And he's the one who needs to put on a bat suit in order to actually channel anything close to that. It's understandable.
That's the thing. That's a cool like balancing act of strengths with your characters. Like, only way. That's the reason. Like he needs the darkness. Probably he needs the smoke bombs. He needs all of his utility belt. He's not fully formed until he's the bat. You know what I mean? That's a cool thing to think about with this mythology. He's like, in this situation, literally the weakest fucking guy there. I mean, he could kick most people's asses, but in this situation, among these elite people, you know, he's the weakest fucking guy there. So I think that's just cool. And he does show some, would you say is almost like whiny a little bit whenever he's first, when Silver St. Cloud leaves him and he's like, I don't know, Richard Dragon, go and figure this out yourself.
I don't know
it's
about
a little
that.
bit on the whiny side.
That seems a little bit more along the lines of Batman not being social and not wanting to deal with someone else's shit after you know, because he's got well, not only after a breakup, but he's got Gotham to take care of. Why does he need to?
That's right.
Like, why does he need to give a shit about anything outside of the city?
His first love is Gotham.
Yeah, exactly.
My city, bitch.
Okay. Yeah, it is interesting to see that, but it's as I said, like I didn't necessarily like that Ben Turner outsmarted him with that one thing. Maybe if they switched it around and gave Ben a different way to showcase himself, that would be cool. Right. Again, like I like one of the things I like best is not when characters are sidelined, but when different strengths are played up. So one of my favorite episodes, The Mandalorian, is actually not the one, you know, spoiler, but not the finale or anything like that. One of my favorites is actually the one with Timothy Olyphant, the first episode of the second season, because they do a nice balancing act of just like, here's how the Mandalorian is still cool, and here's how Timothy Olyphant is still cool, and they both have their own strengths and they play off of each other, but neither one, like one might outplay the other in one scene, but then the next scene the other one outplays, you know, like it's a nice balancing act, as opposed to some other episodes where I was just like, okay, now this is the Luke Skywalker show. Like, it's like, okay, now this is a whole other different thing.
It's they can't get away from fan service, which, you know, it's fine, whatever. But I mean, again, little sidetrack, but that first Mandalorian episode of season 2 it's
fantastic. Yeah.
Just the whole idea of going to save a town. We're going to save a town that is in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking Wild West show. You know, like it's the whole
Samurai,
premise. Yeah, Seven Samurai 2, of course. The whole premise is fucking Wild West shit or samurai shit. Like, they just, I don't know. It was great. Yeah, it was my favorite of that season as well, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I feel like that's a better way to balance things out. But overall, like, I think the biggest strength of this movie is just showcasing lesser known parts of the DC universe and making you more interested in it. Because like now I'm more interested in Richard Dragon thing than I ever was before this movie.
Well, didn't they make fucking Nightwing a spy for a while?
They did,
recently?
Yeah. Grayson, yeah.
Just fucking switch that up a little bit. Little same energy, the spy energy. Whoever wrote that shit, well, they probably want an Asian writer, but but you know, they kind of have that already there, right?
It. Yeah,
exactly. Ben write it. Fucking there you go.
Yeah.
Have a future state one too, whatever the fuck DC's doing now.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Turn Nightwing Asian. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make it. Yeah, make him Richard Dragon. Make Nightwing Richard Dragon. I'm trying to make it easy for producers to understand. That's what's going on.
Tiny
in my
brains, yes.
Yeah, dude. I haven't had any first-hand experience with any of that, but I've heard, let's just say, stories of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some of the producer stories. Some of that shit's like.
There's a lot of horror stories. Yeah.
Has some foot in reality. Let's put it that way.
Probably, yeah. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah. So
anyway, fantastic showcase, I think, of different characters, and hopefully you guys got a nice grasp of, you know, who's who, and hopefully there'll be more of this. So
Batmobile, very low. Sorry, I cut you off again, but Batmobile, real quick.
Leaving. It's not really a Batmobile, is it? Like, it feels a little bit more. It's either Bruce's car in a James Bond like tricked up car, or it's the 1970s Batmobile, which was not a very obvious Batmobile. It didn't have the fins, it wasn't a tank, it didn't have the Bat motif necessarily. So I feel like it's a takeoff of that. And that's kind of the Batmobile that Matt Reeves is channeling for the Batman.
I think so.
Is that what you were going to say, or what else did you think about it?
I just wanted to cover it real quick. Just for completion's sake, for whoever might be listening and watching out there.
Yeah, I did kind of want to see a 1970s Alfred. I'm not going to lie. I was just like, where is Alfred in this? Like, you would think he would at least show up and comment on, you know, Master Dragon, you know? Like, it would have been cool.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That would be cool.
Anyway, yeah. So now that we've covered the Batmobile, that is superhero stuff you should know. Time to cover our fan comments.
Yes.
So we had a few corrections departments in here. This one is actually something that I think, Andrew, you wanted to address since we got this back with the Catwoman episode. P. Graham68 said, quote, "Hey, just finished listening to your Catwoman episode, and after hearing Andrew say that Michelle Pfeiffer hasn't done much since Batman Returns, ... She has been in 33 films, including the next Ant-Man movie in 2022 and a handful of TV projects." I knew you had something to say about this, so take it away, Andrew.
Oh, I don't have a whole lot. I mean, look, you're exactly right. I mean, her IMDb's there for everybody to see. You know, she's definitely been in the mix. I was just saying something based on my own personal experience, not actual reality.
Right.
The actual reality is, yes, she's been in 33 films. She has never quit working. It just, I think the main thrust of what I wanted to say was she was in a Batman film when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, she had such an overwhelming presence as Catwoman in a very formative time of our lives. We're not that much different in age. And, and then to me, I didn't see her in a whole lot until Ant-Man, really, except for I did visit
Right.
Paris in like 2009, and I saw her in, I think, some French movies there. I think she speaks French.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I could be wrong about that, but so it was a comment on my experience. That's it. I'm not saying she didn't do anything else. You know, I mean,
Right.
You're right. You're all right. It was just,
yeah.
you know,
I can see that because of the fact that, like, you know, Batman Forever, Nicole Kidman's in it, and Nicole Kidman after 1995 is still in fucking everything. You know, like, she's in so much stuff. Like, I lose track of how much she's in. Like, I don't even know how she gets a break, but it's not quite the same with Pfeiffer. But I mean, everybody's career is different, and you know, she's fantastic in what she's in.
yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Next comment is from Jose Arrocha. He says, "Hello, I'm writing on behalf of the Corrections Department. It was this is in response to me talking about the different old Bruce Waynes. So he said, quote, "It was Brandon Routh who played Kingdom Come Superman in CW Crisis, the same Brandon Routh who played Christopher Reeve's Superman in Superman Returns. Kevin Conroy did in fact appear in CW Crisis, but as Bruce Wayne. I'm thinking you said Kevin Conroy because you're as big a Batman fan as I, and Batman-related material is always on your mind." So, yes, Brandon Routh did play Kingdom Come Superman in Crisis. However, my mistake wasn't in the actor. My mistake was actually in the character. I said Kevin Conroy played Kingdom Come Superman. What I meant was Kevin Conroy played Kingdom Come Bruce Wayne in Crisis. So that's actually what I was referring to on that. But I didn't realize that I had said Superman until I looked back and wondered why you said this and saw what I actually said in the episode where I said Kevin Conroy was Kingdom Come Superman, and I thought that would have been weird. With him as
Just
Superman.
a little goof on Ben's part.
Statistically, it's still the safest way to travel. He says, "Anyway, love your channel. I've been listening to you guys on Spotify, but I'm going to drop a like to improve your algorithms. Thank you. More people need to catch up on you guys. Thank you again. Wonder Woman 1984 gets worse the more anyone speaks on it. I much prefer the Wonder Woman that quickly discarded Steve Trevor to put the moves on New 52 Superman over this needy I Need Steve Wonder Woman." Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
agree.
talking about that with Steve Trevor and people saying, why hasn't Wonder Woman moved on?
Mm-hmm.
This is only tangential to that comment, but it's
You
been
were
on
like,
my
his
mind.
dick's just that good.
It's just an excellent dick. But no. Basically, I think, again, I don't know for sure, but I think Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot just had this idea of what you call it, like really romantic fairy tale love that never goes away. And it's interesting for me to hear everybody be very realistic about this approach and how they handle love in a superhero, because to me superheroes so close to mythology, so close to any kind of overly romantic notions anyway. Fairy tales, I think they're all sort of connected, at least loosely. So but I think ultimately to be realistic about that kind of thing is a good thing, especially in real life. You don't want to be hung up on somebody forever, but I think that's what they were saying. But thank you. Sorry, I always go on tangents. I know that, but yes, good comment, Jose.
Yeah.
And thanks for making the trip from Spotify to YouTube to give us a comment.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with Andrew that it is kind of a case of feeling like people are looking at this from a more realistic lens than what Patty Jenkins intended. It looks very much like, it seems like not only did you want to set it in 1984, but you also wanted to almost make it feel like an 80s movie, which is why we got this body swap bullshit.
With all the non-wokeness of the 80s.
That's why we got that.
You went too far with the Patty Jinx. Too far
with that,
with
and then this whole fairy tale thing, and I'm just like, okay, like I get that's what you're going for, but to be quite frank, I think the real reason why Steve Trevor is in this movie is because Chris Pine sells tickets. And they're just like, shit, we killed him off. Let's bring him back.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard from several different women that Pine is like the top. And I mean, look, that's one of the most handsome dudes I've ever seen.
Right.
For sure. But I think, it just seems like, Pine's really like almost Brad Pitt levels we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. All right, thank you, Jose. Last comment is from, let's see if I can do this right, Adam Frautskowiak. He says Frautskowiak is a Polish surname. It's supposed to read roughly as Frautskowiak. Let me know if I got that right. I am so happy you replied to my comment. And okay, so a few questions for us. One, did you ever have a situation when you had a headcanon or origin story for a comic and later you saw a comic doing something extremely similar to the thing you invented? For me, that happens at least 3 times with different media. Sorry about that, Adam. And yes, I did. So in 2016, I wrote a TV series spec for the show Gotham. And in it, I had Alfred reveal that Thomas Wayne talked him out of driving them to the movie theater that night. And Alfred took the night off. And that's why in every version of the Wayne murders, they're walking to the car alone. They're not picked up immediately by Alfred outside the theater. They're walking out alone, and that's the night that they're killed. And so Alfred is always living with the guilt of not being there and doing his job on the one night where it mattered the most. And that was an idea that I had, and I told some people about it, and people loved it. Eventually, I'm going to upload that spec into my website coming up, so you guys can read that for yourselves. But last year, Peter Tomasi wrote Pennyworth R.I.P., where they incorporated that idea in the comics, where Alfred was not there that night because Thomas Wayne told him not to be. And so that is now part of comic canon.
You told people while living in L.A., and it's just word traveled, dude. It probably did come from you.
Damn you, Tomasi.
It probably did come from you, man.
It's whatever it is, you know. It's part... There are so many different versions of the Batman mythos. This is just one of them. Right. Adam also asked, do you think that in the 21st century having original ideas even matter when someone bigger and with a budget can accidentally come up with the same idea quicker? I would say yes. Ideas still matter because it's not necessarily about the idea, it's about the execution of that idea. Someone can still have the same idea as you, but not have the right execution for it. Now, there's going to be a bit of a dispute in terms of whether you can still do it, depending on how similar that idea is. But overall, if you want to have creative ideas, if you want to pursue a career in creativity, you can't just rely on the ideas themselves. You have to rely on your execution of that, and that execution comes with the skill of your storytelling. So even if you do have a few ideas that other people end up rolling with and have more famous versions of, A, there's always going to be reboots or people retreading the same ground, but also B, you coming up with that helps your creative skills. So maybe you don't make that, but eventually you do become in a position to be the big guy with the big budget who has eerily similar ideas as all the other laymen out there, and you get to be in that position. But it's because you are a writer, which means that you don't just have one thing, you have multiple things. You come up with different ideas all the time, different executions of those ideas, and your ideas can very much be better executed than what's out there in bigger budget stuff, but that doesn't change the fact that your voice still matters. That's my message for you. So
nice.
And that is it.
Frautskowiak,
yes. So let us know how we did with the pronunciation, and let me know what you think of that. Anyways, I think that's it. Yeah, in terms of the comments, that is it. Over to you, Andrew.
Oh, man. Benward. Don't you know what time it is? Here today. Woo! Here today. Okay. We would like to thank our Patreon patrons as well as other supporters. And their names include SDCT Productions, Robert Schumann,
Kookin Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Aaron Willett, Ian H, Dan D, Leom O, Super Inframan, and Douglas P. Please join the Shasta Army so you can have your name added to this list. And that's at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. Okay? So you get your name added to the list at the $1 tier. Shout outs in every episode. And then at the $5 tier, you get extra episodes every Friday. So you get us on Monday for free, and then Friday for $5 a month. You can cancel that at any time. And we release one episode every week. So getting close to like $1 an episode there. If you so desire, please check out Superhouse merch, superhero stuff you should know merch at superhousepod.redbubble.com. Get yourself a Ben mug, a Ben Man mug. Get yourself an Indeed Wizard mug. Illustrations by Wolfatavius Maximus. Wolfie
Aurelius the Third.
Yeah, Aurelius the Third. We're all brothers. But yeah, T-shirts as well, all kinds of stuff there. So let us know what you feel about that. Please check it out. Please buy some stuff if you want it. And then please leave us a review on the iTunes store. Helps our visibility out there. And please, after you do all this, Ben, the next thing you do in this list, this is a whole plan for the listeners, okay?
What do we do?
The next thing is you take out your phone, you record a little something on your voice recorder app, and then send that something to superhousepodcast@gmail.com, and then you too can be on the show, dear listener. So please do that. And then I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. And I have another YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/user/ThunderwolfLives. Also ThunderwolfLives.com. But that's it. If you're listening to us on Spotify or just the podcast audio only, and you for some reason want to see our beautiful faces, please check out us on YouTube as well. youtube.com/user/superherostuffpod. Superhero stuff you should know. Just search for whatever you want to listen or watch us. We're probably there. Take it away, Ben.
You can also follow us on Instagram at superherostuffpod. You can also follow us on Twitter at superhousepod. In terms of myself, you can follow me on Instagram at Ben1Writer, and keep your eyes out for Ben1Writer.com, where I will be showcasing a few of my own writing samples, including that Gotham spec that I just mentioned will be up on there, as well as a deleted scene I mentioned in our interview with Cole Vallis that features Bruce Wayne talking to Tommy Elliott. And then I will be starting up my own YouTube channel with pitches, with basically audio dramas, things that are some of my own writing of characters I don't own that I've decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to share out these stories to you guys, the viewers/listeners over at Superhero Stuff You Should Know. So keep your eyes out for that.
Speaking of real quick, speaking of pitches, I've actually thought about that for this show. Let us know in the comments if you want us to do this, but if we had like a YouTube only quick show, like 10 minutes or something, called something to the effect of, hey producers, listen, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like we do like the perfect, not the perfect of course, but like, you know, a pitch that both we like, but we think that fans will also like the purpose would be to kind of our audience really would be producers in Hollywood.
Right.
They're like, hey, listen to this. This is what we think, what people actually fucking want. You know what I mean? Something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's us pitching ideas to HBO Max like we already do anyway.
Yes.
But like something that's just that. I don't know. What do you think about that, Ben?
I think it's perfect. I think it falls. I mean, we've already been pitching. We got the Batman training TV show. We got the Bud Collyer and the Radio Superman TV show. We got all sorts of shit.
I want that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Batman: The Legend Continues. Man, come on. Are you kidding me? So.
And now Richard Dragon.
Spy Show.
Yeah.
This shit writes
You're
itself.
killing me over here. Shit writes itself, doesn't it, Hollywood
do it.
producers?
Anyway, let us know if you want that, and again, be on the lookout for my stuff, benoitwriter.com. Coming soon.
Signing off. Bye.
Signing off.